Говорить та показує Київ. Вітаю вас.
Hello and welcome, together with me, Andriy Suslenko. Greetings and welcome from USAID project Cybersecurity for Critical Infrastructure. We're going to have a 3-hour online-offline hybrid event in which we are going to kickstart the Cyber Accelerator, which is a 3-month accelerator program in cybersecurity aimed at small and medium enterprises. And I personally believe that in these 3 hours, I'm going to know more about the market of cybersecurity in Ukraine and worldwide, and the opportunity which the Cyber Accelerator will create. Several technical issues. We're going to spend about 3 to 2.5 hours together. This is an online event, and we're going to may have some technical issues, but if we do, just bear with us. There's nothing we can't resolve together. We're going to have several speakers. We're going to have a keynote speech and several panel discussions. Also, I'd like to say that we have simultaneous interpretation from Ukrainian to English and vice versa. If you are watching us on Zoom, please use the interpretation option in the bottom bar. It looks like a globe-shaped icon, and change the language channel you are more comfortable with. The first 15 minutes we're going to dedicate to what Mr. Mykhailo Fedorov, the Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Digital Transformation, thinks about this project. So let's start with a word of greeting from Mr.
Хочу привітати нашого партнера, проект Агентства США з міжнародного розвитку «Кібербезпека критично важливої інфраструктури України» із запуском кіберакселератора. Агентство США з міжнародного розвитку є одним із ключових міжнародних партнерів для команди Мінцифри. Разом ми започаткували численні ініціативи для передових. Хочу привітати нашого партнера, проект Агентства США з міжнародного розвитку «Кібербезпека критично важливої інфраструктури України» із запуском кіберакселератора. Агентство США з міжнародного розвитку є одним із ключових міжнародних партнерів для команди Мінцифри. Разом ми започаткували численні ініціативи для перетворення України на цифрову державу.
Our cooperation with this and other projects is aimed at delivering effective and transparent digital solutions to provide state services to millions of Ukrainians. Digital transformation is built on public-private partnership and the civil society. The goal of the Cybersecurity for Critical Infrastructure project of USAID is to increase capacity of key stakeholders in these sectors, including creating capacity and talent pools, as well as supporting the private sector by supporting capable companies. The CyberAccelerator is a program aimed at small companies working in cybersecurity. To develop our tech sector further, we are creating UNIT.City, the world's most favorable tax regime for the tech companies. UNIT.City will also help Ukrainian startups, including cybersecurity, including to attract investment and continue their growth. We welcome any initiatives in growing small and medium enterprises in tech, and especially in cybersecurity. And we hope that the CyberAccelerator will let these companies reach the next level and become globally competitive. Thank you very much, Mr. Mykhailo Fedorov. And I agree that on its way to digital transformation, a CyberAccelerator will be a true breakthrough. And another stakeholder that will benefit from this accelerator is the SSSCIP, the State Service of Special Communications and Information Protection. Let's hear a word from its head, Mr. Shchigol.
Наша команда Держспецзв'язку підтримує ініціативу USAID щодо запуску програми «CyberAccelerator», яка має на меті допомогти представникам продуктових і сервісних технологічних компаній запустити розробку нових продуктів та послуг з кіберзахисту. Сьогодні ми будуємо цифрову державу. Це не просто бажання бути діджитальним, це вимога часу. І ми вже бачимо досягнення шляху до нашої мети завдяки системному підходу до цифрової трансформації. Кіберзахист є невід'ємною частиною цифрової трансформації. В цьому процесі держава зацікавлена розвивати та підтримувати національних виробників, бо за умов зрілості ринку легше налагоджувати державно-приватне партнерство. Оскільки програмою передбачений розвиток найкращими експертами, наставниками, інвесторами, це допоможе формувати екосистему кібербезпеки. Адже локальний бізнес кібербезпеки готує висококласних спеціалістів для індустрії. Зазначу, що Держспецзв'язку вже співпрацює з проектом USAID по ряду напрямків у сфері кібербезпеки критичної важливої інфраструктури України. Наша робота спрямована на зміцнення кіберстійкості України шляхом системних реформ, формуванням кадрового потенціалу України у сфері кібербезпеки та розбудови індустрії в цілому. Гадаю, що кіберакселератор, який сьогодні запускає USAID, стане ще одним успішним прикладом допомоги наших іноземних партнерів у розвитку
international donor assistance for boosting Ukraine's cybersecurity. Thank you for the initiative, and we'd like to congratulate USAID on launching such an important initiative. Thank you very much, Yuriy. And here is a word from the USAID. Susan Kutor has the acting head of the USAID mission in Ukraine and Belarus would like to say an introductory remark, and then we're going to launch a promo video.
Доброго дня. Ukraine faces multiple cybersecurity threats. Ukraine's geopolitical situation makes it more important than ever to draw on the resources and capabilities of a broad range of stakeholders in order to tackle the difficult issue of cybersecurity from all angles. Within the government of Ukraine, our key stakeholders include the Ministry of Digital Transformation, as well as the National Security and Defense Council and the State Service of Special Communications and Information Protection. Based on our experience in many countries, we know that the private sector also plays a critical role in developing and implementing effective and sustainable solutions to national development challenges. This may be especially important in the fast-moving field of cybersecurity, where the private sector's ability to quickly adapt and develop innovative new solutions is critical. This is also a growth opportunity for Ukraine. Based on a preliminary assessment, we understand that Ukraine's market for cyber products is a fraction of that in other European countries. As more and more companies, customers, and citizens recognize the importance of protecting themselves from cybersecurity threats, this market is expected to grow substantially. For these reasons, USAID is launching CyberAcceleratorUA, a small and medium-sized business acceleration program in partnership with the government of Ukraine. Over the next 3 years, this program will help up to 50 competitively selected young Ukrainian cybersecurity companies grow, develop, and become competitive on the global market through an intensive 3-month-long accelerator program. It will provide them an opportunity to work with experts in cybersecurity, marketing, and business development to build their capacity, attract investments, and identify new customers in Ukraine and globally. We also aim to inspire government and private sector leaders to work together to protect critical infrastructure against internal and external cyber threats. Our aim, together with our partners, is to build a dynamic cybersecurity industry in Ukraine. USAID's Cybersecurity for Critical Infrastructure program will also support this goal by helping to create an effective legal and regulatory environment and develop a competent cybersecurity workforce. Together, we will strengthen Ukraine's cybersecurity to effectively withstand external threats. I encourage you to closely follow USAID's cyber activity as we launch additional cybersecurity market and industry development programs in the coming months. So stay tuned. I wish you a fruitful event and much success in this effort. And with that, I'd like to share a short video on Ukraine's cybersecurity challenges and opportunities. Дуже дякую. Слава Україні!
Massive cyber attack.
Україні загрожує нова кібератака.
Cyber attack.
Експерти попереджають про кібератаку.
We're back in our studio. Just a quick reminder, we're physically located in the city of Kiev, UNIT.City, and this is a USAID project, cybersecurity for critical infrastructure project. So we're launching the Cyber Accelerator here today, and we're going to do a couple presentations going forward, and then we'll have some discussion as well. And I would like to encourage our viewers to ask their questions across various media, including Facebook and others, and we will be in a position to respond to some of those questions. Now let's look at the cybersecurity market research. And specifically, I'm talking about a study done by the team of Mr. Yaroslav Pryymak, who represents USAID, and he'll take the stage in about a moment from now. Hello, everyone. Happy to see you all. Welcome. I'm sure everyone is really looking forward to learning more about this project and what's planned as a part of that project. I'm speaking about cybersecurity for critical infrastructure of Ukraine project, and I'm sure everyone's also looking forward to listening to our distinguished guests and panelists, and really learn more from this experience, this invaluable, unique experience that they're willing to share. Right, so let me start by describing the goals of our project. Talk to you about some of the expected results, and share some information about cybersecurity market of Ukraine. The study that is still ongoing, but we have already compiled some key numbers, something to share with you today. So let's look at the cybersecurity market of Ukraine study. Now, what makes it so special is that, you see, it's not really straightforward getting data from open sources to use for our study. And our study is essentially based on that openly available data, and it wasn't easy to get the data, to get all the numbers right. So, but yeah, we do have some indications. We do have some ideas regarding the range of that market. Minimum, maximum values, right? So the study did not look at the outsource and outstaff component that our companies provide for foreign enterprises. There are a lot of R&D, cybersecurity R&D centers in Ukraine, owned by large international corporations from abroad. So we did not include the export component. I mean, the component that works exclusively to provide services to other countries, entities, and enterprises. So we looked exclusively at the companies providing cybersecurity services inside Ukraine. So this market is worth about $100 million US, and about half of it is accounted for by government contracts. Now, you have to understand as well that the bulk of these government procurement is pretty much hardware, and very little of all that money is spent on services and in-house services specifically. So, having looked at the current state of this market, we were able to glean a lot of useful information by doing interviews with key market participants, and I'm really thankful to all of our partners who helped provide that insight regarding perspectives of that market. So, first of all, building cybersecurity infrastructure. I think that's the priority number one, and everybody agrees on that. And that's what the country needs. And, you know, this should be really based on long-term investment and PPP type approach to implementing these kinds of initiatives. And as a project, you know, we will continue developing tools to assist in implementation of these types of projects. Now, the second major priority and major growth opportunity for this market is, you know, increasing outsource and outstaff component. And you know, we're primarily looking at companies who already have developed products, have developed their own solutions, and, you know, ready to hit the ground or running, especially outside Ukraine. And these companies have a tremendous potential. You know, truth be told, and everyone understands that pretty well. Now let's look at some of the goals that we have set for ourselves within this project and some of the tools that we're going to use to pursue those goals. So, you know, the first thing first, you know, building up a cybersecurity community in Ukraine. And the expectation is that this community will be working together on a frequent, regular basis, keeping themselves engaged in this dialogue, leading to innovation that could be transformed into actual product. Now, another major component is business development. Business development, you know, we view it as a means to ensure that new market players arrive and emerge with high-quality products that will suit the right niche of that market perfectly. Now, we're also planning on launching an online platform for buyers and for sellers, for vendors, and we want this platform to be international. We want this platform to help Ukrainian companies try themselves out, you know, competing for international bids and so on. So and then for the state, for the government to get a better sense of what services are available on the market, you know, so that they won't have to hire external consultants to really understand what solutions they would need to solve their own IT security problems. Now, let's look at some of the investment incentives that we're integrating in these projects. So there are three main directions to speak of. First of all, support for companies developing high-tech products, and, you know, companies that have their own products, and, you know, we'd like to be able to help them, you know, flesh out all the finer details and make sure the product is ready for the market, you know. And in these companies have the greatest potential as far as I'm concerned. Now, the second major group of companies we'll be focused on in terms of our investments is service companies. You know, a company that understands cybersecurity very well and can come up with a tailor-made solution for an individual client. And the third major block is public-private partnership and long-term investment in cybersecurity of the country. And these are some of the results that you know, we're aiming for using the tools I just described. So, as a part, or in the framework of that cybersecurity center and in the framework of that cybersecurity community that I mentioned, we would like to, you know, we'd like to make sure that there are at least 8 innovations that will have been transformed into the final product, you know, within the time frame of that project. So we want to help those companies take their innovations and turn them into real products. Now, as a part of our business development activities and efforts, we would like to provide our help and our training and our support to 50 companies that will potentially become strong players on this market, and you know, the investment tools, investment mechanisms we're about to use, we expect those tools to bring in additional $20 million US over 4 years going forward, you know, bring into the cybersecurity of Ukraine. Pretty much, you know, this requires there to be a right sort of infrastructure in place for us to be able to advise those companies on various matters, such as, you know, availability of investment, you know, the mandate of different investors, their requirement. You know, we're going to put together a separate grant program. You know, we're looking at all types of grants, starting with the smallest ones, to be provided within this acceleration program, something we're launching here today, and all the way to bigger, larger grants for SMEs. You know, starting with grants to help them develop their own products and market those products successfully, and, you know, all the way to large-scale grants to medium companies to help them occupy new market niches and help them improve their expertise, basically. So we're also working very hard on building up private-public partnership mechanism. You know, something that our public authorities require very much, you know, in order to be able to set up the right cybersecurity infrastructure, you know, the way they want to do it. So, you know, we're still working on the finer details of those PPP tools, and we expect to present some of the findings quite soon indeed. So, my hope is that by combining all these different tools and putting them all to good use the way we intend to will help foster growth and will help these companies become better, stronger market participants, more competitive and more viable. And you know, we will, as an agency, we will of course continue to provide our technical and financial support to government authorities as well, you know, in their attempts to ensure digital transformation in this country, and that's our long-term goal going forward. Thank you very much for your attention. That concludes my presentation. So, thank you, Yaroslav. Obviously, you know, startups and cybersecurity products are in high demand, as we can tell, and hopefully the launch of this accelerator will help us. It will help Ukraine create opportunities for more companies like this to exist and operate successfully here in Ukraine. So, and dear viewers, you know, should you have questions to any of our speakers, including Mr. Yaroslav here, make sure you let us know using various medias and media platforms. And as I said, the actual launching of the accelerator is going to happen in a couple of minutes. And now I'd just like to invite Denis Gursky from SocialBoost and Viktor Gursky, co-owner and executive director of SocialBoost, right? So I'd like these two guys to take the stage right now and talk us through working with investors to promote cybersecurity market. And then Viktor will take over and present the actual accelerator program. So let's. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. What a great opportunity! You know, what a great program to announce. You know, SocialBoost is really appreciative of all the partners, USAID included, Ministry of Digital Transformation in particular, and you know, the NSDC and the State Service for Special Communication Information Protection for their continuous support of this initiative. And you know, this means a great deal to us. You know, this is not our first accelerator. We have already implemented a number of similar accelerator programs in Ukraine, and I think we may be more familiar to you under our alternative name, 1991. Now, back to the issue at hand. Cybersecurity is an extremely important and pressing matter here in Ukraine, and obviously there is a huge potential for growth here in Ukraine. And I think it's really important to help those companies out, provide them some support, and you know, create new opportunities for those companies. You know, a lot of people continue to argue whether cybersecurity is even a relevant issue for Ukraine, and whether startups as a concept is at all possible here in Ukraine, and whether the market needs some external help or whether it needs to be left alone altogether. So, and yeah, you know, that's the situation we've had for many years, and I think the SocialBoost played a role in all of this by stimulating demand by the government institution and by helping market participants develop better products that they could then go on to supply to those who need them. So, you know, looking at the cybersecurity market situation here in Ukraine, you know, for us, I think what stands out is the issue of critical infrastructure, really. This market is represented by large companies, predominantly, and you know, Ukraine could be a very big global player in the cybersecurity market. You know, we're talking $200 million a year in 20 years' time. You know, Ukraine's share of that market is insignificant, to say the least, and you know, based on our research, we can state that you know, the bulk of that market is owned by large companies. Small companies occupy you know, no more than 8% of that market at present. You know, if you look at the general IT market in Ukraine, that is showing 30% growth year on year. You know, the situation is vastly different. The cybersecurity market doesn't have nearly the same pace of growth as the IT market in Ukraine does. You know, IT market in Ukraine has a great pool of smaller players, and that is something we want to see replicated within the cybersecurity market. You know, those who want to join that market, those who want to participate, those who have the skills, who have the skill set, the expertise, they just don't know how to find their clients, how to, and what to put on that market, and what competencies they're still lacking. So all of these questions, you know, how to find investors, how do you reach out to the public sector? And I mean, I'm not even talking about the ministry itself. I mean, look at this vast decentralization effort that's taking place in Ukraine. Municipalities, cities need cybersecurity. Communities become more digital every day. You know, they need IT companies. They need cybersecurity companies out there to, you know, to provide services that they seek and that they need, but they could not afford working with those larger players. And that is why we need more smaller companies to fill that void, you know. So this is exactly what we're trying to do. We want to increase the share of small cybersecurity companies in this market and make sure that you know, we can reach out to the global IT market and offer them our products and services. And I'm not, you know, we don't limit ourselves to service companies. If a company has an NDP, or if a company has a product that needs some finalization and, you know, some things to be worked out, the accelerator will be more than happy to help. We are of a firm belief that Ukrainian cybersecurity market could be a very decent and worthy player on that global market. Ukraine, you know, is a is a very fruitful ground, right? There's a huge demand for these companies. There's a huge demand for these services. You know, the only thing that needs to be ironed out, basically, is what these services should look like exactly, right? And I'm sure we'll be able to accomplish just that, you know, work the finer details out and help these companies grow. Thank you for this excellent opportunity. And I'm really confident that we will see a growing number of partners deciding to become a part of that major success story for us. So let me hand it over to Viktor to talk you through the actual ins and outs of that program. Thank you for your attention.
Greetings, dear colleagues. Thank you, Denis. And I'd like to continue talking more about the technical details of the acceleration program. And the first thing I'd like to start with is who exactly is our potential participant of the program. Like Denis said, our tech market has been growing very dynamically, and right now we have about 5,000 tech companies, and the majority of which are actually located in the regions of Ukraine, and we'd like the share of these companies, a part of these companies, which is 50 companies, enter the cybersecurity market to start offering new products and services in this area. These would be product and service companies which can be classified as small and medium enterprises. They would be reasonably young, and they have to be registered according to the laws of Ukraine. These companies, they must have a team which is ready to develop new services, new products, and they have to have at least one cybersecurity engineer on their staff. Or these could be companies which have some kind of MVP of a product or a service, and they could be classified as early stage or pre-seed, and they need acceleration of the development of their product or its entry into the market of Ukraine. So what does the program actually consist of? The first thing which should be noted is that this program will be more adapted to the needs of specific companies, which is 10 companies which we're going to select for the first cycle of the program. And we will focus on the problematic and the preferences of these companies which we select. The program will include 3 months of working with international experts, lectors, consultants, and all teams, of course, will receive communications support, and an entire public relations team will work on to ensure the publicity and transparency of this program, to make sure that as many stakeholders, investors, and potential clients find out about it as possible. Also, we are going to provide small mini grants, which are not aiming to invest in the product per se, but they aim to compensate a part of the expenses which will emerge in the during the participation of the company in this accelerator, due to the fact that some people will need to travel and reside temporarily in different cities, because the program will be mostly held in Kiev, and these costs may and will emerge, and this mini grant pool is there to address that. And probably the main thing here is that these 10 companies are going to become the part of an investment strategy which DAI is working together with its partners on. By involving third-party investors, we are going to find opportunities for the companies who were selected into the acceleration program, and we will create a seed grant fund which is going to invest into the best companies in the program, into the development of their new services, their entry to the market, and these are the investments which are going to be provided to companies in order to develop their products and services which will be conceived during the acceleration program. If we talk in more detail about what the program is going to consist of, we subdivide the program into 4 sections, and those are called Induction Core, Mentorship, and Cybersecurity. Induction provides a kick-off training, an immersion into the world of cybersecurity, into what the cybersecurity market looks like, and it will start with a kick-off training where the representatives of companies will be able to form the concepts of their products and services, define their target audiences, and form hypotheses and concepts which they are going to verify or refute during the acceleration program. The core section includes the basics of business, product, market awareness. It will include lectures and workshops and independent work and projects. During this time, the teams will understand how to build the concept of their product. The things such as business model, canvas, marketing, public relations, they're going to be elaborated together with mentors, experts, and consultants. We also have the mentorship section, which means that each team will get an individual mentor who will facilitate the team's path through the program. The mentors will consult the teams. They're going to arrange introductions to key experts and key area of expertise experts, which are going to be involved in the development of these companies. We also have a technical block, which is a cybersecurity block, and this will include technical training for the more technical team of the participating companies. It will include lectures, training, and the result of this is going to be an increased understanding of the technical part of these products and services on which the companies are going to work on. So what are the stages of the program? We start our call for applications is live today, and our application form is live today, where you can go to our website and fill in an application form. The selection will last for about a month, and on May 23 we're going to close the application form, and in June we are going to select 10 best companies which will be selected for the program. The program will last for the entire summer, and then in September we're going to hold a demo day where the companies will be able to present their developments to investors and the cybersecurity community. And this will become a starting point for the teams to involve more investments for further development. It's important that all of the applications are going to be evaluated based on a set of criteria. And the criteria, as for the criteria, we are going to evaluate not only the companies but their actual the content of their applications. We're going to evaluate 5 criteria, which is first, team and capacity and their capacity to implement new products and services. Then it's the relevance and effectiveness of the application. So whether this application corresponds to the needs of the market, whether it corresponds to the goals of the program, and whether it implies a positive impact on the market. And the third criterion is the service or product hypothesis. Despite the fact that the companies are going to have to verify, refute their hypotheses within 3 months, we would like the applicants to build some hypotheses at the application stage so that they can hit the ground running and start working with something when they enter the program. Also, the fourth criterion is a plan. What we want to evaluate here is that how much the companies understand the resiliency and reproducibility of their products and services which they aim to provide. The team has to have a vision of how the product or service which they're going to launch on behalf of their company, how it's going to function after the acceleration program is over. Even if this vision is far from ideal, we are going to help you elaborate this vision and improve it. Of course, you have to do your best to present your company and provide a list of competitive advantages which your team and your company believe that it has. Of course, SocialBoost is not making this acceleration program on our own. In this program, we try to bring together a number of partners, which include companies who are developing the ecosystem, such as the Cyber School, companies such as ISSP, Catalysto, and BFI, which will allow access to industry experts in cybersecurity. Such Ukrainian organizations such as the Ukrainian Venture Investor Association and the Ukrainian Startup Fund, which will enable us to create a pool of investment opportunities for program participants. And this is here's just a few faces of mentors and experts which will participate in the program. This list will get longer as the program progresses. The program is going to have adaptive modules which are going to be adapted to the needs of each participating company. And this list is already longer than what you see on the screen. The CyberUA.org. You will be able to see more faces, and of course this list will continue to grow. And of course, I would like to invite and encourage the companies who see themselves in this profile that I talked about, who believe that they are small to medium tech companies. They are small and medium business which aim to launch new products on behalf of their company on the Ukrainian cybersecurity market. You just go to cyberua.org and fill in the application form, and we definitely will get back to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Denis. Thank you very much, Viktor. I already went to cyberua.org and started my application form, but then the feed started. So please don't hesitate. Send your application forms, but if you don't think this is for you, but you have friends who can, please let them know. please refer them to cyberua.org so that they can apply today. And I'm very happy that we have launched the Cyber Accelerator with Denis and Viktor's presentations. And going forward, I'd like to say that you will have more assistance, which is going to be mentor assistance. Our mentor program, which our next speaker is going to talk about. This is Bryan Anderson, the Vice President of Operations of VFI. Let's hear more about the mentorship program from him.
Good afternoon. My name is Bryan Anderson. I'm with VFI. We are a U.S.-based IT service and cybersecurity provider, and we'll be facilitating the Mentor Protege program under the USAID Cybersecurity Initiative. Where the Cyber Accelerator drops off, the Cyber Mentor Protege program will pick up. The Cyber Mentor Protege program is a platform designed to facilitate collaboration between small and medium businesses in Ukraine and larger multinational businesses with similar suited cyber capabilities. This program is modeled after successful programs that have been in place in the U.S. for over 15 years under the USAID, U.S. Department of Defense, U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and Small Business Administration. In Ukraine, we'll be focusing primarily on small businesses with cybersecurity capabilities, as well as women-owned and veteran-owned businesses. Each of these partnerships will be a minimum duration of 1 year, and they'll also include a cybersecurity self-assessment questionnaire to be completed. This will enable us to evaluate a mentor's ability to provide relevant and competent guidance, determine the protege's baseline cybersecurity capabilities. It'll also identify relevant partnership goals throughout the year. At the end of the program, the platform will designate a cybersecurity certification on the partnership based on the maturity level achieved by the protege and the extent that both of the partnerships participated in the USAID program overall. What are the benefits for Ukraine? So similar in the United States, increasing the cybersecurity capability of small businesses increases the overall resilience and preparedness of the Ukrainian nation. It also will create additional economic opportunities. It will provide to the government of Ukraine, critical infrastructure providers, and state-owned enterprise a base of evaluated cybersecurity service providers. And it'll stimulate growth through overall competition. For proteges, benefits include additional technical and administrative assistance through partnership with their mentor, possible subcontracting opportunities with the mentor, an overall improved competitive advantage, and a connection to a national or multinational marketplace. Mentors will benefit through this program by exposure to new and innovative ways to approach technology and process, introduction to small business and new market opportunities, overall enhancement of the cybersecurity capabilities of their enterprise, and it'll be fostering goodwill and corporate responsibility throughout the enterprise. These programs have been highly successful in the United States. The Department of Defense, over a 5-year period, has seen over a $500 million average increase in revenue. Per company, that means an average of $5 million increase in revenue over a 5-year period, plus an increase of nearly 14 personnel per company. In 2019 alone, over 7 different U.S. agencies, over 1,200 small business mentor protege agreements were put in place. So who can participate in this program? Ukrainian small businesses that can participate in this program must be from a Ukrainian home of record, must be registered to do business in the borders of Ukraine, must have completed business within the borders of Ukraine within the last 3 years, must have a cybersecurity or an IT-related capability, and they must be willing to complete an entry cybersecurity assessment questionnaire and an exit cybersecurity questionnaire. Mentors that can participate in this program must be from a non-Ukrainian home of record, must be categorized as a large or medium-sized business by European Union or US standards, must be registered to do business in Ukraine and have completed some business in Ukraine in the last 3 years, and have a similarly suited cybersecurity-related IT capability. Thank you.
Thank you, Bryan.
Thanks, Bryan. And, you know, we are 1 hour into our show. We still have an hour and a half left, and we're going to break for 5 minutes. I think everybody's it is a well-deserved break for all of us. And after that, we'll hear from Pete Zimmermann from Feel Good Privacy. And Phil will say a few words about cybersecurity market, and then together with Dominique Piotet from UNIT.City and Oleh Derevianko from ISSP board, we'll have a little discussion. So, 5-minute break, and then Phil Zimmermann will take the stage.
І ми повертаємось до попереду ще 1,5 години. Тож, як я і обіцяв, наш Keynote спікер вже готовий. Він разом з нами на зв'язку. Разом з нами конкретно на зв'язку Філіп Zimmermann, засновник Pretty Good Privacy та co-founder Silent Circle.
Oh. Okay, Phil is joining us now, and we'll have also Dominique Piotet and Oleh Derevianko from the ISSP board. Phil.
How are you?
I'm doing great. And
could you oh yeah, I can hear you well and I can see you.
Okay.
So it's good to see you here, Phil. If you want to start, please enjoy and take the stage.
Okay, great. And I believe my time slot is about 10 minutes. Is that correct?
It is correct.
Okay, great.
It is correct.
So, as I understand it, your event today is mainly concerned with the sort of entrepreneurial environment of Ukraine for cybersecurity startups. That's a great topic. It's a good thing to build a conference around. I have spent some time in Ukraine a few years ago. I did some software development up in Chernigov. And so I visited Ukraine many times to meet with engineers. I developed my secure VoIP software there with engineers in Ukraine. And it was great. They were great engineers. I'd like to talk a little bit about the kind of environment how to create a favorable environment for startups. About 4 years ago, I attempted to start a venture capital fund in Western Europe. And I wanted to sort of try to bring to Europe the same kind of venture capital environment that we have in Silicon Valley. I lived in Silicon Valley for 15 years. But I found that the culture in Europe was not very conducive to this. The business environment was not encouraging risk-taking. It was difficult to find limited partners to put money in to a VC fund. The VC fund was going to specialize in cybersecurity startups, and the limited partners were willing to put money in, but only if they weren't the first ones in. And so we had 2 or 3 limited partners that were willing to go ahead if somebody else would go first. And so we never could break the chicken and egg problem. After about a year, we stopped trying. But I find that in Eastern Europe, there's a greater willingness to take risks, and I think that speaks favorably for making the right conditions for startups in Ukraine. So Ukraine's economy is relatively weak, but it has a lot of highly skilled engineers, and so this is a source of wealth for the country. I think you need to leverage that to increase the economic activity of Ukraine, and starting technology companies leveraging the abilities of Ukrainian engineers is a good way to do that. And trade with the rest of the world. So I think it would be possible to have a more favorable venture capital environment in Ukraine than what we encountered in Western Europe. I think there's a cultural difference. So also, I think that from a cybersecurity viewpoint, you're in a kind of a hot zone there. You know, you have to be worried about attacks from Russia, the cybersecurity attacks. And so having a large, a lot of effort from Ukrainian engineers to counter that, to come up with ways to repel these kinds of attacks, makes Ukraine a good environment for starting cybersecurity startups. You know, when I think of the relative positions of, well, I was asked not to talk too much about politics, but I want to draw an analogy here. The kind of it strikes me that the kind of relationship that Ukraine has with its neighbor, Russia, is analogous a little bit to the kind of relationship that Taiwan has with China. They're both very close, and they both have this adversarial relationship. But Taiwan has a much stronger economy. It does a lot of manufacturing of electronics. The semiconductor industry is very strong. The manufacturing is very strong. But it's kind of the same ratio, because Russia has a far weaker economy than China, and Ukraine has a far weaker economy than Taiwan. But it's about the same ratio, and so you should be able to do. I don't know if I had. I don't know if this is a very useful observation. But I found that working with engineers in Ukraine was a great experience, and so by the way, I'm not sure I fully prepared for this today. Oh God, it's embarrassing. I understand that you're doing a lot of this through funding from the U.S., and that one of the exits that you're thinking of doing when you're a technology startup in Ukraine is to do an exit through a U.S. acquisition. If you can do that while still maintaining the residency in Ukraine, then that could bring cash into the economy. I don't know if the exit in a U.S. acquisition means that you would stay in Ukraine or move to the U.S. I'd like to open this up for a more of an interactive conversation, because I can't see anybody that I'm speaking to, and everybody's watching from streaming media. But as I understand it from Yuriy, he said that there could be a little bit more back and forth conversation aspect to this. That would be a good thing, because I'd like to be able to address what you guys are interested in. I'm just kind of improvising here. I don't have a fully formed keynote here. This is terrible. So Yuriy, is it possible to have an interactive conversation here?
Here, I'm gonna introduce the speakers who will be in the conversation with you. So,
okay, great.
On the stage left to me is Dominique Piotet. He is the CEO of UNIT.City. Та Oleh Derevianko, голова ради директорів ISSP. So let the conversation begin. Dominique, I will address you to start this conversation, please.
Okay, it's a heavily produced event, so we even have music. That's wonderful. Phil, I'm very happy to meet you. I'm Dominique Piotet. I'm the CEO of UNIT.City, based here in Ukraine, and I think we are supposed to have the conversation together, right?
Yes. Okay, that's great. That's a relief to hear because I wasn't really prepared to do a self-contained speech. I thought it was going to be a more interactive thing, so I wasn't doing so well there.
That's great. That's fine, Phil.
Okay.
Phil.
Oh, this is a much more I think this is going to be a much more productive way of proceeding, where we can have an interactive conversation.
I have one question just to start a conversation. It's our conversation is not going to be long, so probably I will go to tough questions from the very beginning. We know that the cybersecurity market globally has grown like 30 times in 13 years. But on the other hand, there are voices today in the expert environment that it's kind of developing into a bubble. You can find like 300 plus startups in US alone, the product startups in US alone every year. You have you can add to them hundreds of startups a year in Israel. There are hundreds of startups in Europe, and then we have like experts like Dave DeWalt, whom you definitely know, the former CEO of FireEye, who said that there are just simply too many vendors that the market can sustain. So what's your take on this? So do you think that we need more technologies, or maybe the problem is not in technologies? And what's your general take? So is there a bubble on the cybersecurity investment industry, or is it still okay to keep producing that many startups, that many vendors, that many technologies?
Well, it is difficult to deal with that many startups because, where you usually, this is a business-to-business thing. Cybersecurity is largely a business-to-business model. And that means an IT department for a big company has to make a decision about what kind of technology to deploy within their company infrastructure. And it's a lot of effort to do that, and it requires a lot of attention. It takes a lot of time. You have to really invest, not just the money that you pay for the vendor's products or services, but also your own staff, and it's a lot of work. And so you don't want to do that if you think the company that you're bringing in is going to disappear within a year. You can't have 1,000 startups and have them be appealing to IT managers. The IT managers want to deploy cybersecurity products and services that are likely to stick around for a while. So I think that there is going to have to be some consolidation. Now, a lot of that consolidation means that if they're good companies, they're going to. I mean, if they're good pieces of technology, they might be acquired by a larger cybersecurity company, and maybe that would be the way in which they would become more appealing.
Does it mean that the whole game of like young startups in cybersecurity is about to be acquired as soon as possible by some larger cybersecurity vendors or service providers or consultants? Consultancies, I mean, the companies.
Well, if it's just consulting, then yeah, they could be consultants. But what I found that, I mean, I was in a company that was acquired many years ago. PGP was acquired by Network Associates. The problem, though, is that Network Associates had hundreds of products already, and PGP was just one out of so many. And the sales force at Network Associates didn't know anything about PGP. And so, it did not produce a very successful outcome. they were unable to sell PGP and make a success out of it. And so the same thing can happen if somebody builds a product that gets acquired by a larger company, then it might not integrate well. It might not be, cybersecurity products tend to be other than just something simple like antivirus. Cybersecurity products often require a lot of detailed knowledge of the product, and that might be difficult for the sales force of the larger company to assimilate.
Yeah, for sure. Let me turn to Dominic, to you now. You are an expert in investments, obviously, in startups and ecosystem, and I would like to kind of go back to where we're now, to Ukraine and to our ecosystem. And you know that in Ukraine we like to compare ourselves with some other ecosystems, and very often because we're close in proximity, because there's a lot of people who immigrated from Ukraine to that country, and because this country has a lot of R&D capacities here in Ukraine. Obviously, I'm talking about Israel. So yes, we very often compare ourselves to Israel, and many people are inspired by Israel's success. And not all people know, however, that Israel's success in cybersecurity is even more remarkable than in any other area. So you can imagine, like, just a couple of numbers for the audience. Last year, the investments in cybersecurity in Israel were $2.9 billion, up 70% from the year before. There were 20 acquisitions for a total amount of $4.7, I guess, billion, and this is on top of the export of products and services, of cybersecurity products and services that come in from Israel, in the excess of $6.8 billion, also up from 6.5 the year ago. So, and people, the experts in cyber industry know that the key things and key factors of this success are basically all known. So first of all, it's a military connection. It's the compulsory service in the army, and a possibility to take the most talented young people, boys and girls, to the units who do cyber intelligence, who do offensive cyber, who do very sophisticated things in cyber. So then they out of the army and they create startups, they go to, so that's military connections, one thing. The second is heavy investments by Israeli state into the academic research in cybersecurity. The fourth one is the very strong public-private partnership. The state of Israel gives contracts to the private sector rather than creating state-owned enterprises. And of course the global orientation. So Ukraine misses all of these things now. So how are we going to make the ecosystem of cybersecurity in Ukraine and would compete for VC capital? I promised you the tough question, okay?
Yeah.
So how are we going to create an ecosystem for cybersecurity in Ukraine and would compete for venture capital coming from the US and other countries if we don't have any of those factors right now, but we want to create an ecosystem?
I'd like to point out that there is one thing that Ukraine has that's common with Israel.
Ukraine misses almost all of the thing you mentioned. One of the thing I always add to that is also, and it's very interesting for me, as Israel is very small. So basically, if you want to create a startup in Israel, you have to think global for day one, especially in those markets, right? So it's also a question of culture and business culture. So yes, it's going to be tough for Ukraine, but Ukraine has one thing that everybody needs, and that is actually, if you don't have it, you can't grow it. It's talent. It's the quality of our talent, and not only the quality of our talent in our developing schools, and I'm thinking of course of UCode, our coding school, but also in our universities. And I think this is mostly undiscovered. This is something that the market and the world doesn't really know. I have hope, and I have hope for a few reasons. One of them is we started to see one example of a company that is not in cyber, Reface, which is an amazing Ukrainian startup. They've never been, I mean, each of them have been to the US, but collectively as a company, they haven't been to the US to start trying to raise money. But they were able to secure more than 5 million from Andreessen Horowitz, which is one of the largest investment fund from Silicon Valley. So I think one of the things we need to do is to attract the attention on what we have, on the assets we have, and talent being one of them is extremely important. You know, to create an ecosystem, you need basically three things. You need talent, you need money, and you need a culture.
Market probably, in cybersecurity, early adoption is a very, because if you are doing a digital product, you're doing an app,
right,
or whatever, you can go to the market and people would, try this app, right? In cybersecurity, what Phil just said, you create a nice product, but then they go to enterprise client, and the client is reluctant. They don't want to risk with your kind of new technology on cybersecurity protection, right? So that
is very true. That's why I think if you were able to attract, for example, American money, then all of a sudden you can expect those funds to have done their due diligence correctly, and invested in a product that they believe in and actually that they will support. And I think this is what we need to do. But basically we need to be more out there saying, hey guys, look, we have the culture, we have the talent, we don't have the money, but the money is something that will come once we can showcase that we have those two things. One of the things we're missing as well is a good story. Our storytelling is still weak. You know, when you're a VC, you're taking a lot of risk. The chances your investment is going to work is very minimal. So you don't want to add risk to risk. And the storytelling of Ukraine today is still, is it a good country? Is it, and any of the, I mean, the political environment is definitely not helping us right now, but I'm optimistic. This will change.
Yeah, thanks. You know, we are all optimists, obviously.
Yes,
you know.
we have to.
I will not. One of my favorite joke about optimists is that when the optimist and pessimist are talking to each other, and the pessimist says, "Oh, it's so bad, it's going to be worse," and the optimist said, "No, it could be worse." You know. So,
there you go.
Yeah. So it's a good one. Yeah. Let's go back to business. So. I probably, because we promised that to the audience, maybe we can also touch a little bit on some, niches or some potential in terms of where potentially the cybersecurity.
I'd like to point out another similarity with Israel.
We need to take two angles, to approach this question. First is the global trends, and this would be my question to Phil now, and then maybe we touch on Ukrainian kind of specifics. And the global trends, Phil, from your perspective, there are a lot of emerging technologies or emerging even segments overall in IT and also in cyber, like container technologies, like behavioral analytics, like software, software-defined networks and so on. From your perspective, what segments are most promising? What segments may be just a little bit, overestimated? And overall, what's your perception on the technological trends globally in cyber?
I think machine learning is probably going to be one of the more effective strategies. The attacks are going to be automated attacks, and we need automated responses. Machine learning that looks for patterns that are characteristic of attacks would be, an important technology. So, that's one area that I think is important. I wanted to point out something regarding the comparison between Israel and Ukraine. There is one other similarity that I think is important here. Both countries are, have a high threat environment. And so high threat environments are, the kind of environment where, a cybersecurity startup can apply its skills. They can sell to the government. They can protect the electric grid. The cybersecurity companies in Israel are one reason why they're so well respected is because Israel has a lot of neighbors that are, dangerous to them. And that's true for Ukraine as well. And how that could be leveraged into something that becomes as attractive as their Israeli counterparts, I'm not sure, but at least that's a similarity. You know, you could try it out domestically first, and you have a powerful adversary with powerful attack capabilities in cybersecurity attacks.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. I just wanted to say that, again, so because of those factors of success, and because, you know, we're a little larger country, the question probably isn't whether we can boost the demand side of the local market from the perspective of the state governmental clients, and also from the perspective of the state-owned enterprises and so on. And maybe some new policies are needed here in order to help those stakeholders to be more kind of willing to try Ukrainian,
it's not only the local market. It's not just the.
That's why I think it's a good idea within this program, within this USAID activity, to focus the accelerator on, first of all, helping the IT companies to upgrade to the level when they can also provide cybersecurity services. And I think that this is could be the first step. And then the second step could be, actually trying to identify the teams that maybe have great ideas in terms of the developing new products. I also, Dominic, one more question, probably, if we're not running out of time. I was always, not always, I was in the last months or maybe even years, I was thinking about whether Ukraine could actually leverage the cybersecurity component in a little bit different way, not just regarding the cybersecurity industry per se, but about this intersection between cyber and general, digital industry. So, do you think could be potential that, for example, there's a lot of software development going on in Ukraine, and we heard that there are like 5,000 different companies doing it and so on. Could we probably try to position Ukraine as the place for secure development, and then let startups emerge who would serve and maybe think about developing better and better technologies for security testing, for source code analysis, and all this kind of accompanying supporting technologies that can support Ukrainian position as the place for software development?
So I think it's interesting, and actually, when I look at some specific markets in Ukraine, I see a great potential in fintech, actually, and fintech is something that heavily needs securization all over the board, and people don't know this, but when I think of what I consider being one of the best online bank in the world, I think of a Ukrainian bank, Monobank. And I think, wow, why don't people know this? When I look at people usage of payments and mobile payment and the huge development of mobile payment, which requires a lot of securization, right? Ukraine comes on the very top, because when I go back to Paris, when I go to the US,
yeah, it's terrible.
Right, it's terrible. I try to pay with my phone, and people are like, "What? No, we take credit cards." And that says my wallet.
Which you will swipe still.
Yes, look, this is my watch. This is my wallet. I don't have a credit card anymore. Which means that we in Ukraine not only are advanced on actually the technology, but also on the usage. We're starting to trust our phones, and we trust them to be secured. And so I see here something that has actually, I agree with you, a great potential to attract attention from the market. Say, oh, look, there's an advanced market in those fields, fintech. It's Ukraine. Maybe they know something about security and cybersecurity, right? And I think that's the way I could approach it.
Yeah, so thanks, Ermin. So our time is over. So the conclusion that I make, and thanks, Phil, as well, to you for your participation, for your contribution. My kind of takeaway from this is that we probably need to be creative. We probably need to think a little bit out of the box. How, if we want Ukraine to kind of appear on the scene of the advanced cybersecurity nations, but it's possible. I agree with you and with Phil that it is possible to do if all the right ingredients would be enabled. So I thank again to USAID activity and to all the partners, and thank you for this great conversation. And and have a great day and rest of the event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Так, чути в ефірі прекрасно. Philip Zimmermann.
You can hear me. Philip Zimmermann, the founder of PGP and founder of the Silent Circle. We also saw Dominique Piotet and Oleh Derevianko, the chairman of the board at ISSP. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for the conversation. And as we prepare the stage for the next discussion, we will have a discussion on the state of the cybersecurity market, which I really look forward to because I'd like to know more about what the market looks like. The moderator is going to be Igor Aushov, the co-founder of Cyber Unit and Cyber School. And as we're preparing, I'd like to announce you the rest of the speakers.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome back to the opening ceremony for the Cybersecurity Accelerator. You know, that's a major event that we've all been privileged to be a part of. Today, during our panel discussion, we've heard from representatives of public sector, private sector, and various investment funds. Now, today we are going to be speaking about our current state of affairs here in Ukraine, you know, some of the pros and cons arising from the situation in this country. Just a few words about myself. You know, I have some experience of attracting cybersecurity-related investment. And I remember a couple of years back when we did this for the first time, it wasn't really easy. It wasn't very straightforward. And although there are enough guides and manuals out there on how to attract investments, every project is unique. You know, every project is very unique and has to be tackled in a very unique, custom, tailor-made approach. But, you know, once we've done this for the first time and done it successfully, we started receiving more and more inquiries and calls for assistance from other market participants, you know, essentially asking us How the hell did we do it? So, and this is what made me actually think about how did we actually do it, and made me think about sort of taking all these best practices and packaging them into a ready-to-use product that anybody could use. Now, let's kick this discussion off by giving the floor to Pavlo Kardashov from the Startup Association of Ukraine. So, Pavlo, what's the current situation like, and do you think these types of accelerators can help? Thank you for the question. Ukrainian Startup Fund is very much involved in all sorts of international partnership programs, and this project is our second joint project that we've done together with USAID. Now, why cybersecurity? Well, you see, cybersecurity is in the spotlight of our attention at the fund. And, you know, we also pursue other areas such as biotech, green investment, climate change related project, energy efficiency related projects. So, you know, we have already identified some of the key partners to pursue these efforts. And this cybersecurity project would be our first cybersecurity related project that we took part in. Well, the fund has developed its own IT platform. In fact, as you may have heard, and it is actually being used by the project here. And, you know, cybersecurity is a big deal for us. You know, when we first started back in the days, we just, for the first couple of days, we were being swarmed by cyber attacks. Non-stop cyber attacks, and this is when I had to call Igor and tell him, look, Igor, we need some help here, need some cavalry. But, you know, these things have already gone, and we're past all that, you know, and obviously we pay attention to cybersecurity a lot. Cybersecurity is a crucial component and a prerequisite for the economic growth in the country. And you have to understand, you know, there's one major issue, one major takeaway. Cyber threats have no borders. They respect no borders. And that's the key component here to understand. So in our country, cybersecurity and I think digital transformation are some of these things that the country is really thinking hard about now. I mean, look at what the ministry has achieved so far. You know, the ministry alone, let alone other stakeholders. So it's really important for us to find the right projects, find the right startups that can really add value to Ukrainian cybersecurity, that can really become successful internationally. As you know, various cyber threats result in damages and losses worth billions. And this figure is growing all the time. So I think this is a very good initiative, what we're doing here. And I think it is a good way to perhaps try and find some of the answers to some of the questions that Ukraine is currently facing in the field of cybersecurity, and hopefully making Ukraine a better place in the process. Well, yeah, thank you very much for your work and, you know, for all you've done. I know a lot of your projects have already been funded. No less thanks to your efforts. Well, out of 3,000 applications, it's actually 10 or 12 of those are cybersecurity related, which is definitely not enough, and something that we need to keep growing. Now let me pass the floor on to Danilo Myalkovsky from the Cybersecurity Department of the State Service for Special Communication Information Protection, representative of a public authority, an agency #1 in Ukraine responsible for cybersecurity in this country. So let's debate, let's discuss what's the situation like. Does the public sector really need these new projects? Do these projects help? and what is going on in the public-private partnership field. And what do you think needs to be done to have more of these projects in the pipeline? Well, hello, thank you for invitation. And Mr. Yegor, thank you for this excellent question. Now, looking at private-public partnerships, starting with PPPs. Well, our cybersecurity strategy, the first draft has already expired, right? Over the course of effectiveness of this strategy, a new cybersecurity law was developed and approved. You know, it's a framework law, obviously, and that's all you can expect. But you know, when that law became effective in 2018, we actually looked at the EU experience. You know, we looked at European Network and Information System Security Agency, NISA. You know, we looked at their experience. We looked at the various powers that they have, you know, within their own system. We looked at what the U.S. counterpart agency is doing. We looked at some of the challenges they're facing. You know, we looked at their strategies. We looked at the European Digital Millennium strategy, and it all sort of coincided with this new cybersecurity development phase. So, and as you know, cybersecurity and cyber protection are the two key new terms that have been described and set out and definitions provided by that law. Yet, we're still, I think, lacking the right tools and right mechanism to effectuate successful PPP partnership, and I think this is evidenced by a lack of such partnerships in Ukraine. So, you know, the actual partners don't have too many of those. So, anyway, you know, we understand the problem, and we're working to develop an action plan to, first of all, unify approaches to cybersecurity planning across the board, you know, in the public sector, and, you know, promoting PPPs in the process. So that's the general overview. Now, speaking about startups and PPPs, previous panelists spoke at length about trust and confidence, right? So, you know, anytime you embark on a new journey of developing a new product, we need to be able to provide enough argument to make a point that this project is safe for use. So as we're developing the cybersecurity strategy, we've already started taking steps to improve mutual trust, starting with technical compliance side of things. So we have already finalized a list of cybersecurity tools and procedures to be used, you know, if they want to be able to interact and cooperate with us. And I think this will foster maturity, you know, and promote maturity among these market participants. And, you know, we have that toolkit in place already, so, and we're making it available to other market participants. So, you know, there are other pressing issues that still remain. You know, electronic trust services being one of them, and I think the Parliament has done a great job so far of harmonizing and adopting EU acquis communautaire, you know, EU legislation in that field, especially in the field of standardization, obviously, you know, and this is a whole nother discussion. You know, policymakers need to be willing to pull their weight, and put the weight behind these efforts and make sure that European legislation is fully harmonized in Ukraine. Making sure that our system, from the standpoint of standards, is compatible, is interoperable with counterpart systems of other countries and supranational entities. So we're working to address just that. First of all, we're going to start by introducing ISO 1970 standard regarding cryptographic means of data protection. And the second 15408, that's the second standard we're going to work on. So I guess my biggest point here is making sure that all these companies, all these private sector companies, all these startups operating on this market and creating various cybersecurity products, we want to make sure that these companies follow certain standards, and so that there's mutual trust and confidence. First of all, the reliability of supply chains and the actual efficiency and effectiveness of these products, and the right competencies, training of their personnel, and so on. So yeah, so this is. I'm not sure if I managed to actually answer your question, but this is just what I wanted to share with you, right? These are very ambitious plans, really. So here's a very specific, very particular question. What about the number of cyber attacks at the moment? Is it on the rise? Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Ukraine is no different than any other country or a supranational entity. Yet Ukraine is different, I guess, in a sense that Ukraine is waging a very bloody war with the Russian Federation, and which requires us to really think about stepping up our cybersecurity efforts, in as a part of that general military effort. And what's really important is I think for us not just to sit and wait, but rather get things done in a very proactive way. Okay, good stuff. Absolutely. Totally agree. Now I'd like to pass the floor on to Nazar mostly from Interdefense, Ukrainian company represented all over the world. So, Nazar, what are some of the pros and cons of you guys being a Ukrainian company? Does it even help? Does it get in the way? And what do you guys bring here to the table? What kind of expertise do you guys bring to the table here? And what know-how could you share with other companies and other nations, perhaps? So tell us what's good there. Well, let's start with some of the interesting stuff. Well, our geopolitical situation is such that I mean, obviously, it's a bit problematic, I think, is the better word, really. So most people I've been in touch with over the last couple of weeks, we're quite concerned about the possibility of hostilities breaking out here in Ukraine, which would lead to major interference, and in terms of service delivery, which is something that our clients don't want to see, right? And this is why they're so concerned. I mean, look, business in general tries to avoid risky countries, which impacts business a lot, and as a global company, we actually need to start thinking about the recovery plan right now, and really think and really rethink the experience we've been able to amass working with our Western clients or clients from the West, something that we took back home with us and tried to implement here in Ukraine, which didn't really work, unfortunately, the way we expected. And, this country is rife with manipulation and fraud and doesn't help, obviously. But, one thing that does help is Ukrainian talent. Ukraine has great talent. Ukraine comes up with brilliant solutions, incredible products. The biggest problem is that, our people have a zero business education, really. The Soviet Union was never into helping talented people grow. It was quite the opposite, really. So it was all about promoting mediocrity, right? And what happens here is that our engineers in Ukraine right now, they're far from being mediocre in terms of their skill, but they're quite mediocre in terms of doing business. And as somebody said, you got to do business. You got to stop doing startups. You got to start doing business, right? That's the key point. Accelerator, that's a great idea. That's something that can help sort of elevate a large group of talented individuals all at the same time. And lack of that business education, something you can only get from a business school course, that is something that prevents a lot of these businesses from actually seeing a big picture. Because, it's always easy, I guess, to take somebody else's money, burn that money away, and then tell them, oops, I think it didn't quite work as I intended. So our goal here is not to teach them how to create a startup with a nice looking comfy office, because this is what they see. This is what they see in larger companies. They see those beautiful looking working spaces and those happy people, and this is what they want to have as well. They just forget that that's not essential. When I started, we started in the basement. We started our business in a garage, if you will. In other words, there were 4 of us. And we had to work in pretty bad conditions, at least initially, right? So this is something they want to be mindful of. And another big problem is that our talented is being hunted by foreign companies, and it's much easier sometimes for our guys to work in the outsource and do a foreign company's bidding. It's much easier, I guess, than organizing and setting up your own operation, your own business here, hiring people and all that stuff. So yeah, that's a pretty interesting observation. So Ukrainian experts provide outstaff services to foreign companies in Asia, in the US, elsewhere in the West, and then those companies grow to become unicorns with profits with millions and billions, albeit the fact that these companies were pretty much put together by Ukrainians. So I imagine if something like that happened here domestically in Ukraine, that would give a huge boost to Ukrainian cybersecurity community and the overall state of affairs in this matter, in this area. So now let me hand it over to Christina Monets, who's online with us. Can you hear me well? So she's from Good Security. That's the company that was involved in multi-million investments, a company that is located here domestically in Ukraine. And my question to you is, what's it like? What's it like being in Ukraine? What's it like working in Ukraine? And do you guys consider relocating somewhere? So tell us about your plans and tell us about your experience, please.
Great. Thank you very much, Igor. Can you hear me well? Yes, I can. All right. So, well, first of all, I'd like to tell you the interesting story of Very Good Security. First of all, I'd like to thank all of the organizers to join in this event. because the story of Very Good Security starts with the founders who wanted to make a little play. Kind of a word play on pretty good privacy. And this is how we called Very Good Security. So I was very interesting to meet him in person and write it to him. And he actually gave him a chuckle. But 5 years ago, two founders of Very Good Security who are in the United States thought that it would be nice to resolve a problem in data security and compliance and create a company. And they decided to create them with several people from Ukraine, one of which was me. I am actually employee number 2 of the company. And let's say the difficulties that we encountered when building a distributed company before that became a buzzword in the post-pandemic world, we encountered problems such as both clients and investors did not trust the fact that a company that works in security, which develops a product which works on data security product, can have a big team in Ukraine. What we heard very often was like, oh wait, this is Ukraine, that's like risk. It's a risk jurisdiction. And two most cited risks which we would get to hear would be from the investors would be Russian aggression, and second is cyber piracy, IP and piracy. And a little story here. When we were involving investors, on our Series B with Goldman Sachs, one of the senior partners during the process, which is called due diligence. When we actually shook hands and we started checking our financials, etc., the partner sends us a paper, a science paper, which was made by a Ukrainian-born American researcher, saying that Ukraine is a harbor for cyber pirates. And this investor brings this forward as an example, saying that, look, we are risking a lot, even though we had to work with this argument, we had to refute it, and even though this article was just very anecdotal, very argumentative, just a personal opinion of the researcher. However, less and less we hear about less and less go through as a Ukrainian-American company. Let's say, as a Ukrainian-American company, we hear less and less of statements that Ukraine is a risk jurisdiction. And that actually inspires us a lot. So several things I wanted to say related to opening this accelerator. It really gives us a lot of hope that we as a country and the funds and the support of USAID, we want to invest not only technological startups, but cybersecurity oriented startups. I think this is tremendously important in the context of war with the Russian Federation. That's also very important that data, especially sensitive data, are becoming the new oil, the new currency with which the world gets to work with. And a lot has been said today about talent in Ukraine, and that is one of the key components of the success of any company, any business, any startup. And to add on to that, you need a good idea and sales. Paradoxically enough, sales. Nazar already mentioned the quote that don't build a startup, build a business. And I think that this is what differentiates a sustainable, long-term viable business from an idea that can be even well implemented as it is will not fly. So I'd like to call talented people with business ideas to build businesses and business ideas in cybersecurity, to try to understand what the stakeholders need, both public and private, and try to implement their ideas together with talents from Ukraine, while enjoying mentorship from international companies. And from day one to sell their ideas, because startups are good, ideas are good, but if it's not monetizable, that's unfortunately not so good. Thank you very much. Okay, so the next word to Leon Podobedov, head of, I'm board member at UA member and Top Prime. He has experience investing in cybersecurity startups. Thank you very much. Thank you to the organizers, not only for the event, but also for the launch, especially for the launch of the accelerator. I will talk about the experience of two of our projects to understand why this is important, to tell you why this is important. Our first project in cybersecurity, we failed last year. We decided to close it, and the decisive factor was a lockdown. We couldn't travel anywhere to see investors. We couldn't go pitch to clients. But when we sat down and we analyzed the business model, we understood that there are some factors that were more crucial. That Christina mentioned. Of course, when you make a cybersecurity project in Ukraine, you face some prejudice that we do have a lot of cyber fraud, we do have a lot of cyber criminals, and that is still a problem, especially with investors and clients. You also need to build presence in the countries where you want to sell, where you want to do business, and the accelerator can, of course, help us with that. And we hope that launching an accelerator with USAID will really help us kickstart that process. I'd also like to add some optimism here. We have successful projects. We have successful track record. In 2016, we were the first successful investor for SOC Prime, who came at the ground floor level. They had a great founder team. They had a great idea, and they decided to do something completely new that was not seen before at that moment. We believed in them. In 2015, we became their first investors, and then we helped them get an angel syndicate of 8 participants from the US, from Ukraine, the UK, and at this moment, they are a leader in detection as a code. They made a marketplace of security content with hundreds of thousands of different content items for different products are made available, and now they have about 5,000 companies who are registered out of 150 countries of the world who are actively using this product. They have Fortune 100, Global 2000 companies who are enjoying their services. At first, it was difficult to bring these clients on board, but one life hack really helped them, which I also advise to anyone who wants to do a cybersecurity project. Thanks to their own network, the founders could get great advisors from the world, and thanks to the advisors, they could build the trust, and they could, with each satisfied client, with each new reference, it became easier and easier for them to sell and get even more clients on board. This is a great investment. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for amazing information. Since we are getting short on time, I'd like to make a few remarks. Ukraine is now in the center. We are a testing ground for a lot of cyber weapons, unfortunately, and we face certain risks. Our technical specialists and teams are in Ukraine, but we hope to leverage this experience as an advantage for our country. All right, now we are a cyber NATO is being formed. organizations who are multilaterally coming together to join efforts in the international level to counteract cyber threats. And if our country could join these organizations, we could get demand from the public sector for certain types of goods and services. And that would, of course, help us develop the cybersecurity of our country. This I'll probably wrap up. Thank you very much to the participants of the panel discussion. And we wish the Cyber Accelerator a sound and healthy start.
A massive cyber attack.
Україні загрожує нова.
Ми повертаємось до студії.
And we're coming back to the studio. We are at UNIT.City S1417. We're almost on schedule, and the next 25-30 minutes we're going to hold a conversation. Let's imagine that behind my back, or behind the back of our next speaker, there's a fireplace. So let's do a fireside chat, and it's joined by Claudio Iannazzo, who is the CEO of this Catalyst company. And if Claudia hears us as well, and in the studio we're going to have Anastasia Konopleva, the president of ISSP Kyiv. Let's give them a warm welcome.
Hey, good morning from New York. Can you hear me?
Hello, Claudia. Good morning.
Well, let me start by thanking USAID and the government of Ukraine for supporting this important initiative, and to our partners DAI, SocialBoost and BFI for inviting us today. My name is Claudia Iannazzo. I'm the CEO of Catalysto. We are one of the implementing partners supporting the USAID Cybersecurity for Critical Infrastructure in Ukraine activity. And we build ecosystems to solve the world's toughest cybersecurity solutions through training, sourcing, data, and technical programs. In our work and in my work, we've been fortunate to meet many exceptional Ukrainian cybersecurity professionals. And I'm delighted to have this opportunity to interview Anastasia Konopleva, the president of ISSP Kyiv. So Anastasia, are you there? I can't see you for some reason.
Yes, I'm here. Claudia, do you hear me well? Yeah, maybe we have some technical problems.
Here we go.
Hi,
Anna. My apologies.
I represent somehow ISSP Kyiv chapter as a part of board ISSP Kyiv chapter, and I am it's my public life, and in my private life I am owner of a small business. Who is working with GRC, Government Risk and Compliance, for Ukrainian and not only Ukrainian enterprises and companies. Claudia, are you here?
Yes, Anna, can you hear me?
We maybe have. I don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Okay. We started today to.
Anna, can you hear me? Anna, can you hear me?
We are here to.
Anna, can you hear me?
How is possible to join for businesses?
Anna, can you hear me?
Join cybersecurity area. I will tell a lot as soon we are dealing with technical problems with dialogue. I will tell somehow about the experience I have, how we joined.
Okay, can you hear me now?
As a company, we started 21 years ago as family-owned business. About 11 years ago, when
can you hear me now?
Arrived. Oh yeah, finally I hear you. Claudia?
Okay, Anna, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I just can't hear you. Okay, so let me start by maybe Anna, if you can, you know, we were talking the other day about how there are so many different paths into cybersecurity. Can you tell us a little more about what you do today in cybersecurity and how you came to be in this position in this industry?
Yeah, I already started to talk about. I will continue like that. 11 years ago, we joined we had a lot of questions from clients how to deal with arriving requirements for security in business. And 7 years ago, we focused more in cybersecurity and information systems audit. Now we provide government's risk and compliance services to Ukrainian and not only Ukrainian enterprises. As ISSP Kyiv chapter, we work in educational area. We develop humans who can work with who want to grow in information systems and information security, and who want to join the topic.
So here, yeah, it's interesting because I think people incorrectly think you need a technical degree in order to work in cybersecurity. And although degrees and qualifications are certainly important, some of the best cybersecurity operatives I know have never been to university or college. So for entrepreneurs considering whether to move their business into cybersecurity and engage with this type of acceleration program that can help you do that, it's worth knowing that it's a really open-minded industry that still values skills over pieces of paper, right? And you're a great example of it, Anna, because you were able to transition your business into this ecosystem, even though you started somewhere quite different. And, you know, the interesting thing is, and I think some points were made earlier today about it, the global need is profound. There are over 2 million unfilled positions in cybersecurity today. So the industry needs a broad range of skills. And that's not just the excellent engineers and data scientists that Ukraine is so rich in. It's also the auditors and the operations specialists and the project managers and the strategists. And so the list goes on. So if you're interested in cybersecurity, but you're not a technical engineer, there's still a very lucrative career path. And, you know, Anna's a really good example of a successful business that has been built in this ecosystem. But why, out of interest, Anna, why shift into cybersecurity? Why not media management or ISO 2701 auditing? Like, why cybersecurity?
Cybersecurity is just one of the areas, but the matter is that we are living in fourth industrial revolution. The world is changing, and cybersecurity is one of the areas that we can make our input to growth of the world for the future, and where we can grow ourselves within this world growth to the future.
Yeah, I think the growth is absolutely right. It's estimated to be a $250 billion industry by 2023. But that is only a fraction of the damage caused by cyber attacks, which we think this year will be more than 6 trillion. So in terms of deciding which market to focus on, you've moved your business into a market that is a very big problem. It's a very big market. As Oleh mentioned, it's you know, multiplied 30 times very quickly. and it's where the customer need for support is truly acute. So in terms of making the change from financial auditing to cybersecurity risk and compliance, what would you describe were some of the main changes your company had to make in order to make this transition?
Making transition to technology and to this field is necessary to change mindset and to grow overall maturity of a business. Being in security, you need to be security itself. You need to do that way that you advise to your clients, and you need to understand that any advice that you do, any input that you do in system testing, this system has consequences. It's not only your work, it has consequences to infrastructure with which you work. You need to think. Sense of security mindset is thinking long horizon and thinking about consequences.
Yeah, it's a really good point. You know, I think some people, they don't appreciate that. Unlike IT, when you make a mistake in IT, you get a chance to go back and fix it. But in cybersecurity, if you make a mistake, there's actually an aggressor sitting there waiting to exploit that mistake. So the consequences can be far worse a lot quicker than in IT. And you really have to invest in understanding the market that you're going into so that you don't get that bad advice.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked in the past about the customer base for Ukrainian cybersecurity providers, and it's been talked about today. I think it's a really interesting issue. How do you view the market in Ukraine, and what do newcomers to the cybersecurity industry need to keep in mind as they transition into that space?
It's necessary going to cybersecurity market. It's necessary to understand that in security, one or other way we meet incident and we may meet crime. That means that joining the market, it's necessary to be aware about legal system and to be ready to communicate with state bodies who are involved in cybersecurity. We have about 5 different bodies who work on this, who are responsible for one or other side of this topic, and it's necessary to understand in which situation who should be notified, in which critical situation, who should know about to avoid consequences for not only for one business or one company, but for community and for environment as well.
Yeah,
it's necessary to be aware of legal system. It's necessary to be aware of all the community. That all the industry where work the company, because as soon as there are it is link between companies, we have supply chain. If something happened in cybersecurity, if something happened in one environment, it's necessary to think on all supply chain and deal with that. It's necessary to be joining this field. Is necessary to be aware of supply chain and legal system.
And so, how do you go about? You mentioned 5 different departments. How do you go about business building? And building your cybersecurity business in that ecosystem.
А цим часом ми вже повертаємось до студії, адже маємо дотримуватися таймінгу, і зараз я хочу
Well, my apologies, but unfortunately we just ran out of time, so we have to cut it short. And we've just had honors of hosting Anastasia Konopleva and Claudia Natsa, a Catalyst CEO and one of our key partners in this project. So let's break for a couple of minutes, and then we will proceed with our Q&A. And by the way, we've received lots and lots of interesting questions, and we've been able to pick the best questions out of this mailbag, and we will have three distinguished gentlemen actually taking those questions for you. See you in a bit. Nope. Okay, as I promised, we're going to proceed with our final section, and this one will be dedicated to our Q&A.
It's the last segment of our session today, so we're going to wrap up in around 20 minutes. I have three people on the stage with me. This is Denis Gursky from SocialBoost, Bryan Anderson from VFI, and Timothy Dubel, the head of USAID project that we were talking to today about. So I got 6 questions that very active participants and users and viewers have asked our audience here, our guests in here. So I'm going to start with Denis and SocialBoost. The first question to Denis is this one. Will it be possible to get investments as the result of the program graduation? Denis.
Okay, this is a good one. So we will be working hard to make sure that all the companies that participate in the program in the end become investable. So whether it's a company that's bringing just part of their staff and basically inviting part of their team to participate in the program, but the service that they are developing and basically or the product should become investable in the end. For this purpose, we have partnered with the Ukrainian Venture Capital Association, which has roughly 90 members who are primarily investment funds. Also, we are partnering with other acceleration participants, other acceleration organizations in the US that potentially will be looking at the pipeline and thinking about investment. As you know, there is a small grant which compensates the participation of the team in the acceleration. But talking about the investment, there is a larger seed grant fund which will be announced later, and that successful participants of an acceleration program will have a conditional access to. So having this access, basically they will be able to apply and get some grant funding for specifically their product and the new operations or launching the new service, developing on what kind of thing they brought to the acceleration program.
Thank you, Denis. Thank you for that. And you mentioned US, and I want to jump to Bryan here. We have a question which sounds like this. Bryan, is there a possibility for Ukrainian companies in the US market at this point? Do you see it?
I think based on what we've seen over the last year or so with more work from home, security as a service has grown, infrastructure as a service has grown, so I definitely see the marketplace opening up for Ukrainian providers. On this program specifically, that is one of the benefits that we are trying to realize is by teaming larger companies that with stronger cybersecurity capabilities with Ukrainian small business. That's one of the benefits is to possibly be able to realize work outside of the border of Ukraine and globally.
Thank you, Bryan. Thank you for that. Now, Tim, I'm gonna ask you the following question. So the launch today, this launch today, was mostly focused on the supply side, basically businesses and service providers. What are you doing about demand for cybersecurity services in Ukraine? Tim?
Thank you very much for the question. And actually, let me take this opportunity as the project director of the USAID Cybersecurity for Critical Infrastructure in Ukraine activity to say thank you to the organizers of today's event, the participants, for you listening online, for your continued interest, and for your questions. So to address the question of supply and demand, yes, today's launch was about increasing supply for cybersecurity services with Ukrainian companies. That's important. Ukraine has a growing industry overall in IT, but we see cybersecurity as a particular sector of opportunity. But without demand, you don't have a market. I'll go back to the big picture that was mentioned just a few minutes ago in the previous session. The market for cybersecurity services and products is growing exponentially globally. In the next 2 to 3 years, expanding to $250 billion estimated market. So we're helping to position Ukrainian cybersecurity companies to address part of that market. And we're hopeful that they'll be successful as the market grows. The challenge is to create demand in Ukraine as well, not just for the market, but to increase Ukraine's overall cybersecurity resilience and preparedness, public sector, private sector, across the board, even civil society organizations. And this project is working across multiple components to build the demand side. That includes modifications and reforms to laws, regulations, and policies, which will help organizations through compliance with laws or guidance from public sector entities on how to improve their cybersecurity based on clear policies and regulations, to seek cybersecurity services and products, and hopefully seek those services from Ukrainian entities, Ukrainian businesses. We're also helping to position Ukrainian organizations to better understand their organizational cybersecurity posture through understanding their cybersecurity maturity. And along with that comes an improvement plan, which will include additional services, changes that may be needed, whether those services be consulting or more technical, and hopefully those organizations will look to the Ukrainian market to procure those services. We're also working on workforce development, and although that may sound like a supply side issue, putting more skilled cybersecurity workers into the industry, we're hopeful that those individuals with cybersecurity skills and degrees coming from Ukrainian universities will eventually be in positions to make decisions within their organizations, wherever they end up working, regarding cybersecurity products and services. Because there's no single organization that can meet all of its cybersecurity needs without partnering somehow with the private sector.
Thank you, Tim. And I got combined question to Denis. So let's start with the first one. And of course, it's about the accelerator, the cyber accelerator. So are there opportunities to expand the pool of experts and also to volunteer as an expert, Denis?
Oh, that's a good question. So basically, of course, you can volunteer, but we welcome. So we are still expanding the pool of experts, which will be working with the teams, and we also have several rounds of the acceleration that we are planning for. This is not necessarily just right now or this specific round that we are having this year or maybe next year. But we are happy to welcome other experts, except for those who are already listed at the website. So you can go to cyberua.org and apply as an expert. We are ready to hear your opinion on what else could be added to the program if you think there is a value, or just send us your CV or resume and we are happy to have a look at this, or basically just suggest an expert, someone that you know could be potentially valuable. We are very open to two things right now. First of all, new organizations as potential partners, and some of the organizations just came to us and said, look, we know that you're working on the acceleration program, putting it together. So basically, maybe there is a chance we could do something together. And then we just link them to our team. And most of our team is in Kiev. So basically, we find the ways out to work together. And secondly, experts, basically, some people we already know because, as you know, SocialBoost was involved in several accelerations, including 1991, Open Data Challenge, and some other programs. So basically, of course, we've got the base of mentors, but we are happy to speak to more cyber experts, to specifically those having technical experience with government organizations and having industry insights, because this will be quite important and crucial to have more and more experts like this, and to have a healthy rotation of these professionals in our activities in the acceleration. So yes, go to cyberua.org. You can apply as an expert or make some suggestions, and we are happy to have a conversation. Of course, thank you for the question, whoever posted it.
So let's assume that I've just went to the website and applied, and then you said, okay, your company or your startup is eligible, so now let's mentor you, let's educate you. So how am I supposed to be educated, either online or offline, or it's a blended format, Denis?
So we of course we would like to see everyone offline, but as you see, times are changing. 2020 was very challenging, so we had to adapt most of our programs to hybrid mode. So depending on government regulations and what the situation allows, we will be switching between offline and hybrid mode. And we will encourage teams to come to Kiev to meet experts face to face as soon as the situation allows. But currently, we are thinking that hybrid mode would be the most appropriate to stick to. And we'll try to use our experience, which we had in the previous year, just to make it as efficient as possible.
Thank you, Denis, and thanks to all of the speakers, Tim, Bryan, and Denis. I think the Q&A session could be wrapped up. It's pretty extensive at the moment, and we have just a minute to finish up. So I'm going to switch to Ukrainian. Дуже дякую нашим, хотів сказати, панелістам, але ж ні, спікерам, які відповідали на...
So thanks to the panelists, or rather speakers, who were answering your questions, and now we are going to wrap this up. And I'd like to thank our organizers and partners. This was an activity brought to you by the USAID activity titled Cybersecurity for Critical Infrastructure. 2.5 hours we have dedicated to the key event of this day, which is the launch of the Cyber Accelerator in Cybersecurity. Today you have heard about what website you can go to, what kind of training you may be eligible for. So please don't hesitate, please don't miss out on this opportunity. So I think we are on timing, and we've done a good job, and this was me, Andriy Suslenko. Until we meet again, thank you very much.